Welcome to Unmasking Dementia Lived Experiences, a podcast featuring families who have navigated the challenges of caring for loved ones with dementia. Through heartfelt stories, we will delve into the trials, triumphs, and wisdom gained along the way. My name is Christiana Egi. I'm a registered nurse, dementia advocate, children's author specializing in dementia education, memory care specialist, owner of reputable memory care facilities in Toronto, Canada, as well as the founder of a Rose for Grandma Wellness Hub, a charitable organization that caters to the needs of communities of Black, Indigenous, and people of color facing the challenges of dementia. Dementia does not just affect an individual, it impacts the entire family. While each journey may be unique, sharing experiences can help to offer strength and encouragement, with professional insights lighting the way to care, management, and possibly prevention. Join us as we raise awareness, offer support, and empower as we unravel the complexities of dementia together. Tonight, I am thrilled to have Dr. Odiatu here with us. He was a frequent guest on our Forever Young podcast, a wellness podcast that I co-hosted with Sherry Marichu of ALS Double Play. I now consider Dr. Odiatu to be a partner in wellness, and his passion for health and wellness is truly palpable, as you will soon discover. As a matter of fact, I'm talking to him from San Antonio. Again, giving talks. Dr. Odiatu is Canadian, but is usually just dashing across the globe, especially since the pandemic. He's an internationally acclaimed speaker, the author of The Miracle of Health, and a practicing dentist in Toronto, Canada. He's a certified personal trainer, yoga instructor, and bootcamp instructor. He's also a professional member of the American College of Sports Medicine. This very busy dental professional has been a guest on over 400, and I dare say 500 by now, radio and television shows, including ABC, 2020, Canada AM. He has given over 500 lectures in Canada, the US, Denmark, Bermuda, England, Jamaica, Norway, and the Bahamas. His number one goal today is to ignite your passion for health. So welcome, Dr. Odiatu, to Unmasking Dementia Lived Experiences.
Yeah, hi. I love sharing from my heart. I love sharing with people who have challenges. I think a lot of health information can be a little bit confusing. There's lots of myths. So I like to feel my take on it adds clarity to the conversation, so people actually can use it right away rather than thinking I have to get a master's or a PhD in eating food or fruit. So I'm here to create clarity, not confusion.
Awesome. This is just what we need, because we know that lifestyle change can help improve or prevent some chronic diseases like dementia. So, Dr. Odiatu, are there particular nutrients that can be beneficial for brain health and the prevention of dementia?
Yeah, so any foods that I'd say whole foods. I think foods that lower inflammation. So, any of the antioxidants. So antioxidants are known to lower inflammation, make someone more insulin sensitive. They protect the DNA. They remove free radicals from the body. So antioxidants-rich foods would be perfect, because when that brain, those 85 billion neurons, get messy with exhaust from being busy all day, the brain is one of the biggest organs in the body in terms of its desire for glucose and oxygen. So it has a lot of waste. So antioxidant-rich foods are some of the best ones to purge the exhaust or free radicals from a very busy, hardworking brain.
Hey, I know that there's a lot of talk about the Mediterranean diet. Can you please explain how it impacts brain health and dementia risk?
Well, the Mediterranean diet has lots of vegetables and fruit. So those, by definition, have lots of lots of antioxidants. Antioxidants, which foods, as said, are anti-inflammatory. Mediterranean food has lots of fish. Fish also are potent with their omega-3 content. DHA has 500 functions in the brain, 500. And the average man and woman in North America only consumes, I'd say, only 1 in 7 have the amount they need every day. So people are scared of food. They talk about the taste of food. They're not sure whether, farmed or wild. So a lot of people are low in fish, and fish is one of the easiest ways to get your omega-3s.
That's awesome. And how does physical activity interact with diet to influence brain health and dementia?
It's a 1-2 punch. I wouldn't say there's one or the other. I really do believe, though, that anything good for the heart is good for the brain. So if someone's exercising, it increases cardiac output, increases stroke volume. So it just increases the way the heart pumps. Anytime you increase the efficiency of the heart, blood pressure goes down. The brain is full of blood vessels. Like there's a circle of Willis. There's all kinds of nutrition with lots of vascular highways to it. So you really want good quality highways. So anyone that suffers from high blood pressure, basically when the blood comes out of the heart, like boom, 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 86,000 times a day, all that increased force from high blood pressure, and basically it's the number one killer. It causes little nicks and abrasions in the blood vessels. These nicks and abrasions are also in the brain. As the brain tries to heal those blood vessel abrasions with white blood cells and foam cells, and they're trying to do good, but they end up narrowing the vessels at the same time. So you really want to have low blood pressure. Well, the best ways to lower your blood pressure, besides medication, is exercise. And there's many different kinds of exercise, but ultimately you want moderate to low blood pressure. So the heart's not worn, but also the blood vessels don't get as beaten up or damaged.
I'm just wondering on that note that, exercises, there are different types of exercises. Can you just sort of expatiate briefly on the different types that we need?
Yeah, well, great question. It's actually 3 kinds of exercise. 77% of the population, and this is a statistic out of the American College of Sports Medicine, they report that less than 23% actually exercise. So almost 80% do have no regular physical activity. So to get in the top 5 where the sweet spot is, you need to do all 3 kinds: aerobic training, muscle training, and flexibility. Aerobic, which is lungs, muscle, which is resistance training, and then flexibility. Flexible body, flexible mind, flexible life. Rigid body, rigid mind, rigor mortis. So you need to move. You want to stay on this planet and be with your loved ones.
Wonderful. And I know that we've talked about intermittent fasting in the past. Is there a way that this can impact cognitive health, either intermittent fasting or, meal timing strategies to that a lot of people, there are so many different types of diets out there. So which one of these or what can we do to help impact cognitive health, please?
Well, the latest out there, and the book by Peter Attia, Attia, he's an oncologist. He wrote a book called Outlive, came out in March 2023. And he kind of summed up what I was feeling. A lot of us were doing this fasting thing, thinking this is the way to go. People were not eating for 12 hours, eating all their food in a 12-hour window. Some people were doing 16 and 8, 16 hours of no food, eating all their meals in 8 hours. Some really ambitious people were doing 20 hours of no eating and eating all their meals in a 4-hour window. Well, they now know the intermittent fasting is better used as an intervention. Intervention meaning it's not meant to be used all the time. It's like you put a cast on a broken leg when it's broken. You don't leave it on thinking, 8 weeks is good. Why not leave it on for life? Intermittent fasting is considered now to be a short-term intervention to get someone metabolically healthy. But once you get there, you're better off doing, small meals every 3-4 hours if you want to maintain your muscle. And anytime you maintain your muscle, you maintain mobility. You maintain your mobility, you can actually get the body and oxygen to the brain, which the brain most definitely likes. So right now, intermittent fasting is not the golden child we thought it was. And like all things, medical practice, dental practice, nutrition is a practice, and we got to move on. So, I think intermittent fasting is going to be like the MC Hammer pants of the 90s. It was great at the time, no longer useful in the year 2024.
Wonderful. You always you hit a point. Anyway, so we know that conditions like dementia, some types of dementia like Alzheimer's and vascular dementia are related to vascular diseases like high blood pressure, hypertension, and diabetes. And I'm just diabetes, high blood cholesterol. How does food impact the risk of developing these conditions? And if you already have these conditions, is there a path for diet to play in improving these conditions?
Well, like diabetes, they're now possibly calling dementia just an extension of diabetes. And if you think of how bad we've beaten up our pancreas and how insulin resistant we are, in 1985, this is actually a 2010. It was a worldwide diabetes symposium, and they said that in 1985 there was only 30 million diabetics worldwide. 30 million. In the year 2000, it went up to 150 million. So it increased 5 times in 15 years. In 2010, at the time of this worldwide conference, it doubled. It went to 300 million. They've actually extrapolated that by the year 2025, we're not there yet, there's going to be 500 million people who are diabetic. Well, that being said, anything that beats up the blood vessels, anything that makes us insulin resistant is also not good for the brain because the amount of vascular nature in the brain only weighs 3 pounds, but it takes in 25% of our oxygen. So when you have blood vessels that are damaged, when you think of diabetes, think of an inflammatory condition. Now you have those same blood vessels damaged in a very closed container in a skull where there's not that many routes in and out. So it's almost like a cul-de-sac. It's powerful. Nature has encased it in a bony skull. However, there's very few blood vessels in and out. Those blood vessels get damaged. Now you have an organ at risk. So basically, they're just saying that dementia, the increased numbers of it, could be just an extension of how badly we've become insulin resistant, and the fact that we no longer manage blood sugar well.
So, in terms of actually changing lifestyle change, again, this is something that is really difficult. It's easier said than done. Do you have any practical advice on how people can change their eating habit, maybe, put in a little bit of exercise and, of course, maybe improve sleep as well?
Yeah, no, I love that question. I think people need to do it little by little. I don't know how many people, it's an all or nothing. There's so many myths that if you don't do it perfect, you fall off the wagon and you start again the next day. There's so many people beginning over and over and over till they feel like a failure. I like my clients, I like my audiences to feel successful. So you tweak it by a small amount. When you change, I had one lady that said she was drinking 8 cans of soda pop every day. 8 cans, which is 64 teaspoons of sugar, which is basically almost 190 pounds of processed sugar a year. So I told her, she always says, oh, experts say I should quit cold turkey. Well, you try and do 8 cans of pop to 0, you're going to fall off the wagon pretty quickly. So I told her, switch out 1 can and switch it out to water. Celebrate, feel successful, and then every week do a little bit more. So I think success breeds success. I know that there's a really good book called Atomic Habits by James Clear. So he said, inch by inch, fitness is a cinch. Yard by yard, it's hard. So little by little, moving in the right direction, celebrate, and keep stacking those accomplishments one on top of the other to arrive at, basically, I don't believe there's a finish line, but you definitely, by stacking accomplishments, you're moving yourself further along the road than if you would by saying, oh, I'm going to do a 5K. Well, I'm going to lose 30 pounds. Well, be process oriented. Process driven is the best way to go.
Yeah, absolutely. Because if you want to be successful, you have to practice things that are sustainable, right? So a lot of people, they start strict diets and then they fall off the wagon. It's actually best that, you slowly, change your habits. Habits are difficult to change, bad habits, even good habits. But when you do get, a success, like you said, we should celebrate. But please don't celebrate with unhealthy foods.
Yes.
and don't celebrate too much. Okay. So,
yes. Yes.
What about alcohol? What does alcohol consumption do to the brain, and how does it predispose us to dementia risk?
Well, the new talk, Health Canada came out just, I think it was last year, because so many people had started drinking more just because, to get through COVID. It was a way to take the edge off a very intense day. People were full of anxiety with so many unknowns. And they've actually shown that alcohol might actually be a neurotoxin and that no amount of alcohol is safe. It had great marketing for the last 30 years saying a little bit of red wine because of proanthocyanidins and resveratrol. However, you now know you can get that same proanthocyanidins and resveratrol in grapes and blueberries without, not being able to drive, without making your sleep poor. The neuroscience has also shown that actually alcohol also makes you sleep poorly. So if you don't sleep poorly, the brain doesn't rest as much. The brain loves 7 to 9 hours at night, so it can actually reboot. When someone drinks anything within 10 hours, this is actually from Dr. Andrew Huberman, neuroscientist. He said what happens is your brain doesn't rest deep enough, and you end up waking up foggy or fuzzy the next day. So again, getting sleep is important. Alcohol interferes with it, but also alcohol also is inflammatory and changes the gut flora. And gut flora help to make short-chain fatty acids, which are the most anti-inflammatory agents the body makes. So alcohol comes at the body in a number of different ways, with none of them being good, except, you look a little like James Bond at the cocktail party. But even then, James Bond in those movies was drinking probably just water or iced tea.
Yeah, alcohol does have a great impact on the brain. Some people actually fall prey to the impact of alcohol, like Korsakoff dementia is one of those dementia that results from alcoholism. And so it's really good, to try not to drink too much. And again, celebrate with alcohol, but don't, make it, don't become dependent on it. The other thing is caffeine. A lot of people depend on caffeine to function. Does this have impact on brain health?
In one way, there's a bunch of really big meta-analysis and studies called the EPIC studies. These are done in multiple countries over several years. And they came out and said regular coffee consumption up to 3 to 5 cups a day lowers the chance of mortality from heart disease and lower chances of overall mortality. However, coffee can also be used as a crutch. When someone's not sleeping well, it can give you a fake sense of energy. Because what happens is when you're not sleeping well, you'll have coffee first in the morning, coffee middle of the afternoon, coffee end of the day. Meanwhile, you should have just gone to bed. And they've shown, this is actually at Stanford sleep researchers, they actually showed that people who are diagnosed with dementia and diagnosed with cancer, a lifetime of poor sleep is a common theme amongst all of them. So a lifetime of poor sleep. Not a summer of poor sleep, not a weekend of poor sleep, but a lifetime. So definitely you can actually stack the deck in your favor of having dementia if you're a poor sleeper. So again, got to look at how many weekends you've been doing it that for, and then go from there.
Okay. So stress is a big elephant in the room. Stress is actually responsible for most chronic diseases and everything because stress is the #1 killer. It can cause anything, any type of disease condition. So what is your advice on how to manage stress, please?
Yeah, there's many different ways. I think depends on the stress source. Stress can simply come from a house that's cluttered. You have a cluttered house, it creates psychic angst as you walk through the shoe boxes and the cans and jars and plates that are open. So that's like an environmental cause. 2, you can have childhood trauma. If someone has unresolved childhood trauma, and we all have some kind, even an only child could have childhood trauma. Besides emotional, sexual abuse and physical abuse, there's many different kinds. Even being the middle child, being told, oh, she's the middle child. She doesn't know which way, she's the oldest or youngest. That can cause trauma. Unresolved trauma can cause some elevated cortisol. Elevated cortisol acts like a catabolic hormone in the body. So now the body's going to be breaking down easier. Because cortisol is only supposed to be increased in the morning to get you up out of bed. So that being said, there's many causes. Some childhood trauma, physical abuse, from poor sleep, from overacting and eating with junk food. But ultimately, we have to address it. And when you address it, what happens is you immediately give it attention. Many times it's like a crying baby. When you first address it, all of a sudden it goes, hey, why me? And all of a sudden you give it attention and you pick it up and the baby wants to go to sleep. So look at who needs your attention. Look at what you can do to help them add some clarity to a very busy life. And ultimately, everything that's interesting or a mystery to us, there's a book on it. I think there's hundreds of thousands of books on overall body health. You just have to read it and read it as if you're going to teach someone. Because when you read something as if you're going to teach it, you understand it at a deeper level.
Okay, so to conclude that evening, I'm going to ask you to sort of speak on, just summarize lifestyle change, what we can do, especially where diet is concerned, and other things that we can do to have, that perfect lifestyle that can lend itself to proper cognitive health. So I know there are so many things that need to be done. So just, if we had to live today to say, okay, someone says, I want to start on a path to health. I want to change my lifestyle. What are some of those things that you can tell us to start with, please?
Okay. Well, being a dentist, there's new research showing how there's an active pathogenic flora in the mouth, P. gingivalis. So capital P dot gingivalis. And it loves crawling into blood vessels. We now know that it makes its way to the head very easily. So with all the vascular nature of the blood vessels, you have an oral microbe or an oral pathogenic flora making its home in your brain, not a good thing. So definitely getting your teeth cleaned on a regular basis and using, string floss or a power brush or a Sonicare to keep those teeth clean. So I would say brushing teeth, flossing, very important. Number 2, eating whole foods. Processed foods are full of preservatives. Whole foods have no ingredients list, but they do actually also help with providing whole grains and other items. Okay. Number 3, a regular exercise program. Moving very much increases the heart to work better. When the heart works better, the actually heart slows down because it gets more efficient. So cardiac output goes up. What happens is the heartbeats go down. So now actually the heart doesn't have to work so hard because it's working more efficiently. 4, eating healthy food, staying away from processed food, getting back to whole food, and then just going to bed on time. If you think of poor sleep as a hallmark of someone with dementia, I would say using the clock. So try to get mom or mother or grandfather or granddad into bed at the same time all the time. But these habits are hard to start at age 55. You got to start it earlier. So starting the good habits earlier means you have that much more time to make it entrenched and make it unflappable.
However, it's never too late to start. So you can start now and still make a change. Thank you so much, Dr. Odiatu. It's always such a pleasure having you. And I hope you'll be back soon to discuss another aspect of wellness that can lend itself to cognitive health. Thanks a lot. And I wish you all the best. And do come back home, okay?
I'll be home Saturday morning. I love Canada. But
You'll
again,
be back and gone again the next week, though.
Yeah, well, my colleagues, I think there's 220,000 dentists in America. There's only 25,000 dentists in Canada. So there's lots of study clubs and organizations and associations. And we all need to maintain our licenses. The best way to maintain your license, you need to have 90 hours of professional development every 3 years. So there's only limited amount of subjects. Mine is very unique. I talk about, the secret life of patients that sabotage the good work we do. But most dentists and hygienists come from themselves, because you really can't be a good healthcare provider unless you yourself are healthy to take care of others. So I go where I'm called. My little son, Theo, loves my push-ups. My friends and family also love my enthusiasm for health. Ultimately, I'm purpose-driven to share one of the gifts my mom and dad gave me, which is the desire to treat your body with reverence by eating it well and moving often. So my dad always said, a sound mind and a sound body. I am here to serve, Christiana.
Thank you. And I appreciate that. And I hope that we've all learned something from this. So we'll see you again, Dr. Odiatu. All the best on your travels.